I'm Oris Drusnak, and I'm the head consultant for McConnell Fusion Technologies, which is a public company that is listed on the OTC Market Stock Exchange in the US. This company now owns McConnell Moran Technology Corporation, which is where we are right now. They are a research and development company that has developed this 500 kilowatt prototype that you see behind me. And I'm here to address some frequently asked questions that come up whenever we're talking about this prototype. The first question that comes up is, what's the big deal? Why do we need anything like this? Is this like emergency power for your home when the power goes out? And my answer to that is those already exist. You can buy small generators to give you the power for your home, and that just tells you how small these generators can be. This generator you see behind me, it can produce 500 kilowatts of electricity. And just to give you perspective, 500 kilowatts of electricity is enough electricity to power a subdivision of 250 homes. So if you have a small community with 250 homes or less, this is the power that you need for it. Now again, people would turn around and say, so what's the big deal? Well, it's not a big deal in Alberta in the small communities that are close to the larger centers. But if you go further north, there's no electrical grid. Those communities have to get their electricity from somewhere, and they would get it from a generator that looks something like this. Now, those generators are powered usually by a diesel motor. And as you can appreciate, diesel creates a lot of air pollution, for one. The second thing about diesel is it's costly, especially if it has to be shipped to the far northern communities. So as a result of it, there's a problem. And if they don't get the diesel in because of weather conditions, then of course they have power outages. So having a system that works without using fossil fuels like diesel or using uranium for nuclear power is quite an attractive thing to have. Now, what we're talking about here, and what you've probably heard described before, is that this unit is powered by fusion energy. So then the question comes up, well, what is that, right? What is fusion energy? And so fusion energy is described as energy where two atoms are brought together and they release energy, which is the scientific explanation. And of course, they relate it to the kind of reaction that happens at the center of our Earth, where the heat is produced there, or in the sun, right? Again, that's all very interesting, but making it work is a big problem, because in fact, there are huge ones that are being developed right now in places like the UK or in France, and even most recently, they were working on one in California. Now, these are large units that they're building. They're the kinds of units that, if they get them working, will power a whole country, right? We're talking about the kind of units that will power a small unit like this 500 kilowatt unit we've got right behind us here. So that's quite unique in the marketplace. And as has been described to us over and over again, there are over 200 communities in northern Canada alone that rely on diesel-powered generators that are, of course, providing electricity, but not in the reliable way that they would like it, and certainly not pollution-free. So this becomes very attractive again to do it in that way. The other thing that a lot of people probably don't relate to is that these units would become very useful for bigger farming operations, mining operations, or industrial applications. And again, those are situations where they're using a lot of electricity. And so investing in infrastructure like this, where you produce your own electricity and can ultimately save money on electricity, is helpful. But it's not just helpful for the farmers or the industrial users. It's also helpful for our electrical grid. As our Premier, Danielle Smith, commented when she was talking to the IT industry, she was saying she was welcoming people in the IT industry to Alberta. But she said, when you come, bring your own electricity. And what she was saying is the fact that our grid right now is producing electricity for what we have here today. And as a matter of fact, last year we did have a few instances where, in fact, we could have faced blackouts if we couldn't access it from Saskatchewan. So as a result of it, our grid is really at a maximum right now. So when we talk about people that are coming to Alberta, for instance, to do Bitcoin mining or other high computer energy source requirements, we're talking about companies that need to have a system to produce electricity for themselves. And so, of course, again, this is the kind of system that would do that. This system here would produce their electricity so they wouldn't have to rely on the grid. And of course, that helps everybody in the province. It's not that it helps the users, of course, that are needing that electricity, but it also makes sure that it's not a further drain on our electrical grid. So that's the big deal as well, right? And then, of course, when we talk on a global scale, we're talking about Alberta, we're talking about Canada. We're not thinking about all the communities in Africa. We're not talking about the communities even in places like India, where the big centers, of course, have their electricity all set up, just as we do here in North America. But you get down to the smaller centers that are not connected to a grid, and they struggle to produce electricity. And so, of course, this kind of a unit is the answer to those situations where they can get the electricity that they need. So again, this fills a very necessary need in the marketplace, and that's why it's going to become such a popular, I guess, product or popular thing to market in the marketplace. Now, going on further from that, we're talking about the cost and expenses and everything else. Well, we're dealing with distributors who will be assembling these in different places. Like we already have a distributor that wants to set up in Europe to distribute to the European Union. We have interest from India to set up there. And these distributors will set up their own assembly facilities and they'll be putting it out. So we're not talking about just a Canadian solution to a Canadian problem. There's a lot of course, American cities that'll need it, a lot of cities in Latin America and in every continent. So we're talking about something that is a global solution to the need for electricity. Now, why this electricity, right? And the last thing that is important to emphasize is that this is green electricity. And there's a very big emphasis right now on doing things that are good for the environment. And we all agree that that's the goal. That should be the end goal, and nobody disagrees with that. Unfortunately, the only way that we can get electricity right now, or the main way to get it, is through using fossil fuels or uranium. That's the big producers. Yes, we do have wind power. Yes, we do have solar. We do have those. And in North America, they account for perhaps 10% of the total electricity production. So you can see that 90% of that has to come from fossil fuels. Now, it's true, we're getting away from coal, but we're going to natural gas, which is still a pollutant. It's creating the carbon dioxide that everybody's concerned with. So the green electricity is a really big factor. And green electricity means that we're not producing any pollution to the air, we're not creating any uranium waste, and we're producing sustainable energy that will produce electricity for the future. And of course, yes, we're in the early stages of this development. There's no doubt about that, but this is the future. This is how we want to go into the future. This is how everybody wants to go into the future. And so we are on the threshold of developing something that will become very commonplace in the very immediate future. And so we're very excited here at McConnell Maxi Fusion Technologies, and we're hoping to basically be part of this new development that is going forward into the fifth industrial revolution. And I thank you.